One common definition of improvisation is that you are composing in the moment. You're basically doing both composition and improvising together. They're running parallel and they're operating all at once, which is fantastic. That's great. But if you're a beginner player, then it certainly doesn't happen like that, or at least it didn't for me. So what I've been doing recently with some of my students is this exercise where we're basically taking the element of real time out of this process, and we're just composing solos to basically make sure that we have very clear audible ideas so that we're actually playing what we're hearing. Because I'm sure you've all been there where you put a backing track on or something like that, and basically you kind of get dictated to play by what the backing track's doing, and you kind of play something that you're not that happy with, and it's a bit of a cycle. But this process that I'm going to share with you today has really made some massive improvements with my students, and it's something that I certainly used to do a lot when I was learning, still do now occasionally, but certainly as a beginner player I think it's a really great exercise to do. So basically the chord progression that we're going to be looking at in today's lesson, just while I've got a guitar in my hands, is a 2-5-1 in C, long 2-5-1, so D minor for a bar, G7 for a bar, C major 7, 2 bars. Then we're going to minor 2-5-1 and minor 2-5-1 in the relative minor. So in the key of C, relative minor is A minor, B minor 7 flat 5, E7, A minor 7. So from the beginning, 2-5-1 in C. 2 bars on the 1 chord. E7, A minor 7. Then if you want, you can add an A7 there, which will create kind of a back cycle to the 2 chord. Okay. So the act of composing a solo, well, what does that mean? It basically means that you've got to sit there and compose something rather than just kind of play. So there's a couple of ways that you can go about this. The first would be that, say if you were just sat here with your guitar, there's 2 ways that my students have gone about doing this. Part of the requirement of the assignment is that you actually have to write the solo down. Okay, so that's something that you've got to do at some point. And I think by doing that, you're kind of committing something to stone. And I think you're being a little bit more precious about what you play, rather than, you know, just kind of having that mindset of, you know, it's improvised, it is where it is. When you've got to kind of write something down, it kind of gives it more of a complete kind of feel. So anyway, the first way you can do this is just to noodle with your guitar though. So if you're playing over this, okay, first chord D minor, you might think, well, how do you improvise over a D minor 7 chord? Well, you know, firstly you might think to stick to that pitch collection of C major, that's always a good thing. But within that there's a D minor 7 arpeggio, right? So you might think, you might just want to play a D minor 7 arpeggio. Okay, so that actually takes up, if you play that, that actually takes up a lot of space in that D minor 7, you know, bar, depending on where you play it. And then you would think, okay, well, how am I going to get to the next chord? Well, this C wants to go to a B natural. And that's one way of getting, you know, from one chord to another. And then adding these kind of syncopated rhythms, you know, makes it swing a little bit more. And then at that point, you know, you want to be thinking, this kind of thing is all about planning on where we're going to. So from G7, we need to be going to C major 7. The third of C major 7 is E natural, which is only there, right? So what you might now do, so you could hear there, I started on the A and I played something like that. But hopefully what I'm trying to really kind of brainstorm here is the thought process. I'm not just kind of noodling with things, I'm really taking my time and trying to listen to what I'm doing rather than just kind of putting a track on. Okay, I'm composing an idea, right? And of course you should write that out as well. And you know, that often really helps you kind of structure a solo and get in what you want to get in, right? So that was just one example with arpeggios, but it could be anything over that. You know, you might have any concept that you like over any of these chords that you want to get in, and composing really helps it become kind of an intentional thing rather than just an occasional, you know, habit that might sneak in every once in a while. It becomes part of your language by kind of composing it in. So that's one way you can do it. Another way is that you can actually just kind of sit and basically, you know, write the solo first, you know, and that really is forcing you to kind of, you know, realize what's in your head, especially if you do it on some kind of, you know, notation or something like that, because you're writing it out and then you're figuring out what you're writing it out. So that's one way that you can do it. And of course you can actually, a lot of my students like to do this on piano as well. There's something about piano which seems to be easier to connect to your ears than the guitar, and I think it's just because it's such a simpler instrument in terms of how it's laid out than the guitar. So that's a way that a few students have done it. So that would be kind of what you could do. So in terms of, you know, general things that you might want to bear in mind when doing this kind of assignment, well, like I said, a major pitch collection is kind of a good thing to bear in mind with the 2-5-1 in C. And then when it's 2-5-1 in A minor, there's all sorts you could do. I always like to kind of use the harmonic minor scale. And if you use language from the harmonic minor scale, that's pretty good to do as well. Okay. And, you know, because this is a solo, you want to try and build it up. So if you're playing kind of melodic for the first time or the first 2 times through this, as it begins to kind of build up, then you might want to try and get longer linear lines, even if it's just over one of the chords, like D minor 7. There I'm going to G7, leave a little bit of breath and space, and then answer. And then, you know, you might want to keep that going. So of the minor 2-5-1, a longer phrase. You could do that there as well, okay. And certainly as you kind of build things up, there's ways that you can do that. Maybe you could use some octaves, you can maybe throw in a few chords. These are all things that you can do to build momentum within a solo, but like I said, the act of composing a solo first is often what kind of generates the result. So if you look on my YouTube channel, there's a playlist that I've got which I'll link to called Student Showcase, and you'll hear some fantastic submissions from some of the students that have done this. And if you'd like to get involved and you'd like to get some feedback from me to help you get to this level, then you can do that in a number of ways. You can either join my Jazz Guitar Club, you can join my Patreon page. Things like that will kind of give you access to my feedback, which will kind of help you get on board with this type of thing. So yeah, if you've never done this before, give it a shot. Try and compose a solo. Like I said, you have to write something down. You have to record it as well. It has to be recorded. And there's a backing track that you can use if you want, which all my students have used, which I'll play at the end of this video. And there's also a link to it if you want to download that. You'll get that if you join me on Patreon or on Jazz Guitar Club. So yeah, if you have any questions about this, let me know. But I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. And if you find it useful, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more lessons like this. Thank you as always to my wonderful Patreons that help these videos keep coming. They really wouldn't be possible without your help or support. So thank you very much. And if you would like to ensure that they keep on going, then please feel free to look at my Patreon community, which is linked and listed in the description below.